Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Coach, it is another beautiful day. I know we don't like to talk weather all the time. Before we get into our empowerment, I just have to say that I heard the weatherman say we've not hit 100 degrees yet, and it's not in the foreseeable future. And it's getting close to the middle of July, so I'm game. Let's go. Anyway, jumping into the Power Minute here. Tonight, we're talking about mastering game day play calling. I'm sure you saw the title, being that you suffer or fail to make good play calls under pressure. That's if you do that, you're not alone. Lots of people struggle to make the play calls when everything's on the line. So we're going to jump into 3 big points tonight. Offensive play call sheet. So just organizing what you're trying to do beforehand. We're talking about preparing your play calls to play the game before the game. Joe's really going to jump in there heavy and just kind of talk about how without playing 1,000 games and going out and coaching all those games, you can prepare yourself mentally to go out and do that. And then the last one, use play calls to attack the weaknesses of the defense, which is, go where the defense ain't. Super good. Use what they do against them, break the rules, etc. So we'll jump into those big 3. But first, let's hit our level up. You have a super special level up this time. I'm excited about it.
Today, as we are recording this, July 8th, is my son's 3rd birthday. So we have managed to get a human to the age of 3 years. So he had his Grammy and Pops come down and brought his cousins. So we had a 1-year-old, a almost 3-year-old last night, and a 4-year-old, his cousin that's 4. Him and his 4-year-old, the 1-year-old was here, but
Right.
he had a sleepover with his cousin, so we had a 1, 3, and 4-year-old boys here last night, which I know a lot of people are used to, and we are not. We are used to 1 child, and he's a lot to begin with. So they had a sleepover last night, and then went out and had some fun for his birthday today, had a little birthday party, sang and did the cake, and then we went out to pasta night tonight. So took him out to dinner. So
that's awesome, man.
He actually handled pretty well. Sometimes taking him out to dinner is
There's my wife says that her family quit going out to eat because of the way she acted in restaurants
right
when she was a kid. And I can 100% see that in our children because we don't go out to eat anymore either. So,
yeah.
We learned in dog training that you either have to basically train your dog not to do things, but the best way to do that is just keep them out of that situation. Same thing with humans.
We have that discussion a lot. I wouldn't take him we take him to certain places. Now we have, generally we can get through. There's definitely some handing an iPad type stuff, by the
for sure
middle of the meal, but like he's managed to go out and make it through plenty of meals. But mostly we go to our club that's across the street, and it's pretty, it's a controlled environment, lots of kids. Or we take them to Buddies, which is where we're friends with everybody, as you've been there, and we met there, and nobody minds him they've seen me being an idiot plenty, so they're like, oh, there we go.
It's a small version of you.
Yeah. So, and of course we don't, we're not there during the peak hours of
right
bar season, but we'll take them there for brunch or something when we know it's pretty dead, and all this, and then just get to see a few people. But yeah, it's definitely, we're on two wavelengths, one of which is like we definitely avoid potentially frustrating and embarrassing situations as much as we can without becoming, hermits.
Right. The handing of the iPads and all that, and like using technology to help you with your kids, I have zero qualms with that. We definitely did that until Beckett was about Joe's age now, about 3 to 4. Once we had the second one, though, it was more of a fight for that. So, we had to start limiting all of it. But all in all, I don't let anybody criticize, because it's just about your mental sanity or mental clarity or whatever.
It's funny how there's so many people who I'm sure there's plenty of coaches listening to this who don't have kids yet or don't plan to have kids. And I can just tell you, and you can tell me I'm wrong, all of the things that I thought when I didn't have kids. Who would bring a baby in the bar? Oh, look at him just giving him an iPad. It's so lazy. It's like, dude, this is a survival thing.
Yes, it
I
is.
like who would bring a baby in a bar? I don't want to live. I don't want to be locked in my house my entire life.
Right.
Like he's not sitting up there ordering gin and tonics with me. I don't drink gin and tonic, but I don't drink gin at all. But like, I'm going to take him places and be social. Like he's going to be social. He's not just going to be in daycares and babysitters. Plus, for those of you who don't know this, all babysitters make a living wage now.
Yeah.
Whoever told them they needed that, all babysitters are
you.
$15 an hour. They default to that. I'm not talking about professional childcare. I'm talking about the girl next door. How much? $15 an hour because the TV says that's the
standard.
minimum. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's getting
oh
tough out there.
boy. All right. So I mean, our anniversary is Friday. We're planning a trip the week after, but like we're talking about what we're gonna do, and I'm like, in my head, I'm just, I don't want to be rude, but in my head, I'm thinking like, we're gonna go to I want to go to a nice restaurant. I'm like, cool. How nice, because it's going to cost $100 just to get out the door. Like,
Right. On top of the the check for the
yeah,
meal.
and it's a Friday night, so it's probably an upcharge, But yeah, all the things that you guys who don't have kids are like, oh, look at that lazy parent. Just trust me, we're getting by here.
Just
I only
survive.
got one. Like, I know we've got friends that have 3 or 4 boys, like all boys.
My mom raised 4, and I don't know how because I'm got 2, and they've hit the point now where they can kind of self-manage in the house, so we don't go out.
Yeah,
we'll just stay at the house.
Yeah, that is one thing with where we're at right now is we're getting more and more into like he can hang out and I can walk out of the room for 3 minutes to grab something, and like I'm close enough to hear him scream, but I don't need to like be spotting him at all times.
For sure.
Most of like from the time he started walking to very recently was just all suicide prevention. Just constant.
That's maybe the best way I've ever heard it, but
yeah. I had this guy I talked to. That's my last kid story. This guy I was talking to one night. I mean, he has older boys now, and I was telling him this is when Joe was maybe a year and a half, and he was like, he's like, man, I thought I had this all figured out because he was on a deal where he was home with his boys more often than not. He was stay at home dad kind of thing, and he was like, we had a spare room. And he's like, I put a couch in it. He's like, I padded the walls. I took everything out of there. And he was like, I figured that like there's nothing could go wrong in here. And he's like, it was maybe a month and there's blood everywhere. Just kids just bleed. He's like, I don't even know how it happened. Like, I don't even know how he figured out how to do it, but he found a way.
Found a way to
He's like, all right, so I'm not gonna feel bad.
Nope. Life will find a way, I believe is what they say. So
well,
my level up is so and all that good stuff. I know this year we started a garden, and then a week later we're like, nah, we're not doing that. So we went and spent like we usually spend $200 or something at Lowe's, and then get a bang load of plants, put them in the ground. We spend a lot more time than that getting them everything looking good. And this year, man, I burned off the little garden patch early, and then I was just like, I don't have time for this. We planted what we bought. Some of it's still sitting out here, and like we didn't ever plant it. We bought seeds, got them to sprout, and now they're just sprouts that are living on the concrete because I'm not burying them. 100% we're like, nope, we're not gardening this year. So a few days ago, I guess this is Tuesday. So I guess, yeah, probably Friday or Saturday, I walked out and realized my garden is now 3 feet tall in grass because I bought some mulch a couple of years ago that made my plants quadruple in size overnight because it's super high, whatever potency, but it has a bunch of alfalfa cuts in it, or I'm sorry, Bermuda cuts in it. It's a compost is what it is from a mushroom plant. Anyway, so it has just grown up in Bermuda grass that's all grown to like 3 feet tall. So I went out the other day. identifying that I'm going to have to weed eat this down for snake prevention because I don't want snakes around the yard. And this is a great place for mice to live and rabbits and all the things that snakes eat. So I started working through and realized that amongst all of this grass is plants from all the fruit that hit the ground last year and is finally sprouted. So we decided not to have a garden, and the garden was like, yes, you will. And it reproduced anyways. So I only did about half the garden. With that, you heard a loud crash earlier, as long as Joe doesn't edit it out. It was literally the Tim's unit that fell because I'm attached to it right now because I worked so much in the garden yesterday pulling grass because I didn't just do this early on. Now I'm having to play catch up that my back is hurting. So don't get old, rule 1. Don't serve in the army and then get old is rule 2. So I just did about a third of the garden, and I found 50-ish pepper plants that have naturally grown and a whole bunch of tomato plants. So the hobbies I tried to get rid of found me. They found a way to get back in. So I guess we're going to have a garden this year.
There you go.
But
what are you going to do?
Life, like I said, it finds a way.
Yeah.
Both of our level ups tonight. So yeah, I don't know what hobby we'll drop now. Maybe none of them. We'll figure it out. Last week's topic, if you didn't tune in yet, our players are out of shape by the fourth quarter. We went all through conditioning and what modern conditioning looks like. You got to hear Joe and I disagree slightly on how we condition our teams, etc. Next week, we're talking about we're not getting the most out of our talent. I think that's going to be a great episode because I made a coach mad by saying that there are a lot of coaches in the world that don't know what they're doing in multiple aspects of football, and the coach was mad at me, just told me how much his friends, those are all his friends, and they are great coaches. And I said, okay, awesome, thank you. But I think there are a bunch of us out there that don't know how to get the best out of every position group. I myself do not know how to do every single position group to get A+ effort from all of them, or get all of the potential out of them. So I'm looking forward to that one next week as we kind of sit down and talk about how we can fix that, how we can get more potential out of our talent that we are recruiting out of the hallways or whatever else. This is a good time to remind you to share the podcast, send out the episodes. If it's this one, if it's talking about being out of shape and conditioning, kind of the modern stuff we talked about, or the basically not being a tyrant, I think is where we really landed on that one. Don't run gassers anymore. There's so many episodes to share. Go find one that you'd like, offense, defense, special teams, whatever, and share it out to a friend of yours that's in coaching. Joe, let's pay the bills, man.
All right, the difference between a championship defense and a defense struggling every Friday night is not just talent and it's not luck, it's your system. Without a system, you scramble every week trying to fix problems on the fly. Your players are confused, your assistants are not on the same page, and your defense is constantly playing from its heels. I've worked with over 10,000 football coaches, and many were making the same mistakes. They're overcomplicating football, running a stack of plays with no reason behind it. They're just calling front stunts, blitzes, and coverages from the seat of your pants. Once we get those coaches putting a real defensive system in place, everything changes and your players play faster, the coaches have more confidence, and you start winning more football games. And that's why I put together my latest free guide, which is what you need to know to build the ultimate defensive football coaching system. Inside that guide, you'll get the blueprint for building a defensive system that works so you can simplify your playbook, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. You can download your free copy right now at joedanielfootball.com/system to take the guesswork out of coaching, build your ultimate defensive system, and turn your football program around this season.
Let me ask you a question. Are your athletes fast enough to win every game on your schedule? The reality is most football players aren't, and most coaches, well, they're still leaning on outdated speed drills that don't actually translate to the field. You can have your kids in track all offseason running sprints till the sun comes down, not gassers. Talked about that. And live in the weight room. But if your athletes aren't getting faster where it matters, in pads, in the trenches, on game night, then you're wasting valuable time and reps. That's where athleticspeedmovement.com changes everything. You're getting real football speed development, not theory. This is built specifically for our game with progressions, drills, and a full program that works at every level of play. No matter if you're semi-pro, high school, all the way down to the youth level. It's all designed by Del Basquet, a guy who knows the game at the highest level and is backed by results on fields all over the country. So don't keep guessing with your speed work. Go to athleticspeedmovement.com right now and start turning your team's speed into a real competitive advantage. Part 1. Let's jump in here. So part 1 is the offensive play call sheet. And I know because I've seen it, I think we all most of us over prepare on our call sheet. So we've seen like even NFL guys, right? They go out with the Denny's menu. Um, and I feel like there's the opposite side of people who are like, well, if we can go out and do the air raid system where everything's on an index card. Like, there's got to be a happy medium. But I'm super excited to hear you talk about the offensive play call sheet because I've always used yours and just kind of made it my own. But
Yeah, and the index card has been kind of proven to be a myth,
right,
in a lot of ways. So, um, but you're right. There's a happy medium. I think where I think it's even so much that a lot of coaches not only don't have a call sheet, not only don't have a big call sheet, they don't have a call sheet at all. Um, and they're going from, you know, a, they're going from gut and a lot of what happens in the course of a game, just if you prepare your call sheet a certain way, the standard traditional call sheet way, I think you end up at the end of the first quarter calling from gut a lot. And if
absolutely.
that's where you're at, if it's just become gut calling, um, I I think you need to, because the old viewpoint was, well, a lot of people do that, and you go one of two ways. You just keep doing it, which is a waste of time, or you just stop doing it at all, and then you're just completely going, off gut instinct and nothing else. Um, where I think the call sheet, so a lot of people think of the call sheet as a menu rather than a call sheet. And if you think about a menu I mean, it's one thing if you have a menu at a nice restaurant, right? It's one page and it's got, you know, this, here's your entrees and here's your appetizers and here's your, it's pretty short and simple, and maybe that's helpful. But it's when you've got the Mexican restaurant or the Chinese restaurant that is the foldable booklet, right? That menu is not, I mean, I think of when I go to like a lot of Mexican restaurants and they have like 10,000 things on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they have 20 different types of tacos, 20 different types of burritos, 20 different types of enchiladas, 20 different types of this, then they've got the combination platters for lunch, and then they have to combine, and then this is for, this time. And then they've got the special things that they're chef specials things. And then they've got, and then they've got like burgers and stuff, and then they've got the kids menu. That's what a lot of people's menu looks like, right? That's what their play call menu looks like. And there's nothing on that menu indicating which one you want. So what do we do when we go? Well, either we went in just, you go into the restaurant and you just went in like, I am here for the, burrito deluxe, and I am getting that, and I don't really, none of this other stuff matters to me. Or if you didn't go in with that mentality, the waiter is, can I take your order? We're going to need a little longer. And you're flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping, and you end up ordering something that you're not sure that's what you want. You're going back and forth between 2-3 different things, and you're like,
Ask them
I,
what they think
I
is
guess
good.
I'll get this. Yeah, what do you think's good? Like, no, dude, you're the play caller. Like, you're the guy that's going to eat it. Like, what do you think sounds good? Like, so you're doing all your research right there at the time. That's what happens here is we're doing all of our research right now. I've got my menu and I'm doing all my research right now. Or you drew up, so you might just have a menu with nothing, no rhyme or reason to it. A lot of people have a menu, and then on the other side of the menu they have down and distance, and the defense doesn't do what you wanted them to do down and distance wise. And my argument against down and distance wise is down and distance is mostly meaningless unless we've talked about situational football, unless the size of the field has changed or time is a factor or turnovers are a factor. So
Right.
really it's time and turnover, or really it's the size of the field and turnovers being a factor, or occasionally late in the half you have time being a factor. Time can also be a factor if you're like way down or something, or way up, and you start to change your play calling to make the clock move faster or move slower or whatever. But so what that means is down and distance wise, the only down and distances that really matter, because in theory, all of your plays are designed to be an explosive play. Like they're designed to be a big play. So, most of them. And honestly, the the only thing that really matters as far as play calling goes is if there's the potential for a turnover, which means third down and you're going to punt or potentially going to punt on fourth down, or it's fourth down. Because either one of those plays, you must get to the sticks, or it's, turnover, a punt, or turnover on downs. So that's where that situation matters. The other situation that matters is when the field shrinks, your play calling changes. So red zone, your play calling changes. Goal line, your play calling changes. But, going from most of that, I would say backed up is a little bit like if you're really, really backed up, like on the one, that's a situation.
Right.
That's where you're like, just give me some breathing room. It's a really good time to, try to draw them off sides, because it doesn't, use your no plays, because it doesn't matter, go on two, because it doesn't matter that if you jump off sides, like
Right.
you don't lose anything. We've had that, I think we did on the Tony DeMeo podcast a couple of years ago. Um, so, so I think that you design your play call sheet that way, and then you realize that the defense isn't thinking that way. And instead, you have a worthless thing. You're looking at like, oh, it's 2nd and 7, and you call by what you thought would be good on 2nd and 7. Well, that's worthless, because they're not going to, even if they run the same defense, they're not going to call the same that they did last week when they were playing a wing T and you're an air raid. Right, the blitzes aren't going to be the same. The fronts aren't going to be the same. It's just not a good lay. It's not good, and it's relatively meaningless. Instead, which we'll talk about later, what you want to organize it by is the weaknesses that you are attacking, is the areas that you are attacking. And so the easiest thing to look at in the run game, in the pass game, I just organized by coverage. These are coverage beaters. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You can never be 100% right. You can check with me. They can disguise, all that sort of stuff. So you can get as deep as you want in this, but you'll never be 100% right. You got to go by kind of what we break it down to 3 styles, which we can talk about in a minute. But you break this thing down by the weaknesses you want to attack, which we'll talk about later. And in that way, I don't have calls based on what I think they're going to do on 2nd and 7. I have calls that I like for if I have a numbers advantage to the off tackle area, right? Just I have some space, I have some numbers. I have calls that I like because there's space behind the corner because he's pressed, and I'm calling to that space. I'm calling to numbers. Numbers is the easiest one. I'm calling to leverage. I'm calling to bubbles. I'm calling to whatever advantage I see, whatever weakness the defense is giving me in that moment. You can see a lot of this pre-snap, um, if you have a system to make those calls, the check with me calls. But defenses will start to, I like to get in the huddle. I like to do kind of based on what we're seeing from them. I don't see defenses doing a ton of changing to a billion different things. If they are, it's usually to their disadvantage anyway. So, and numbers also comes down to, when I say numbers, that also comes down to matchups. So we talk about if I have a right tackle who's going to the SEC and he's a 2, right? He's not a 1. He doesn't count as one guy. He counts as 2 guys. And if you've got a left end who is going to go to a really good school that will not let him play football for $1 million, he's a half. He's a 0.5. He's a program kid, and I've got a 2. That's a numbers advantage, right? We can start counting that way. So that's why you got to know what their roster looks like. So we organize the plays not by how we're going to react to what we think you're going to do or what we like on a third down. And so, like, when we did the systems, the situations practicing situations, we talked about the teaching our running back how to run inside zone on third down versus running it on second down or first down. It's third and this is how you run inside zone on 3rd and 2. There's no cutback.
Right.
There's no cutback. There's a daylight, and you stick your nose in there and you get 2 yards. By God, you fall forward. But there ain't no cut. Right? I don't need you to get 5. I need you to get 3. I need you to get 2. I don't need 65. You might bust through, but that's not the goal right now. That's situation. Like the calls may be the same, but like I said, for that we hammered inside zone. So the call on 3rd and short was inside zone for until it wasn't. Then again, I also 1 year I had a kid who could get 4 yards on a quarterback sneak no matter what happened. So the call on 3rd and anything second, I do it on second down. I just go and get the first line up, do it again. But he was amazing with it. I mean, we're talking 135, 140 pound kid, but he always got yardage on sneak. So anyway, that I think organizing your play call sheet in a way that it can't go wrong. It can't go wrong. If you can call it wrong, right? I can go, okay, I think what they're giving me. And again, you're shooting for 70%. That's amazing. If 70% of the time you call the play that attacks the weakness or a weakness, not even the biggest weakness, but a weakness in the defense, that's amazing. And you manipulate that weakness by your call sheet becomes a system. And this is something I'm going to be working on, is the call sheet as a system in and of itself, where the script and the formations that are in the script inform the weaknesses, which inform the calls, how to attack. So that, the formation creates the weakness. The weakness tells us what play to call. Is kind of how all that goes together. But ultimately, that's how we want to organize the call sheet, is in a way that it can't be wrong, right? So I have calls that I like for any weakness that you could give me. Now, as I always tell coaches, initially just start out organizing your call sheet for the weaknesses that are easy. Numbers being the main one, coverage beaters, numbers advantages, whether it's you're just better than them in one spot or whatever it is, and you start to use that. But then, you can start to look at other opportunities.
I think what causes coaches to kind of freeze up here or struggle under pressure is, and you kind of alluded to it as well, but that we always want to be right.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever in the history of the sport has gone out and called every single play right for every game. It just doesn't happen. Some of the best coaches in the world have lost Super Bowls, right? Some of them never even made the playoffs. I mean, look at like players too. Dan Marino, right? How do you be like almost maybe the greatest quarterback of ever,
who called a lot of his own plays,
Tom Brady, who can get a Super Bowl, right? So it's just like, it doesn't matter. Even if you're the best, you're going to screw it up sometimes. So first of all, you just got to let that go.
Yep.
Just treat it like any other play. It depends on what the pressure is, I guess, because if it's, down in distance and it's the short down in distance, it's like you can troubleshoot that a little bit too. Reminders in your call sheet to do certain things, right? We always use a no play almost every time third down. It don't matter if it's 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 1. We're going to just try to get a free play every time because our kids don't jump. They do it. It's like you're going for 2 all the time, right? Sure, you do it all the time. It's not really a surprise advantage anymore, but it's a tactical advantage. We're so good at it that you're going to screw it up before we do. So we just keep trying. I think somewhere we get out of just giving the ball to the good kids, like the ones that are going to do something with it when this high pressure situation hits. And so we start trying to outsmart ourselves. Well, if they think that we're going to give it to number 1, then I actually need to give it to number 2 on the opposite side because they will overload the number. No, stop, right? Create a very simple situational chart. Like you said, Joe, where's their weakness? Where's our numbers advantage? Maybe it is just a 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 3 or something, 3rd and short. I don't think you need a 1st and 10. I don't think you need a 2nd and anything. Just go play football. But if you're 3rd and short, sure, you might want to think about, I have a SEC right tackle. We probably need to run behind him right here. Call plays there. Or I've got a slot receiver that has a big advantage this week because they just can't match up with him. that's where my play calls to go to him are. They're going to lie there because I need to remind myself to go to him. Look, I would love to say that I've sat in a booth and called great games as well. I've been up there last year. I was a co-OC just helping play calls. And like we got to an end of our last game. We lost third round of the playoffs. And we got to the end of it and realized we didn't give the ball to probably our second best kid after halftime. We just never gave it to him.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't realize it. We didn't think about it. And I think his dad may have been the one that highlighted, like, it was his senior year. This is his last game, and he didn't touch the ball after halftime. We were like, dang, we did screw that up. And we do that. We already organize our playbook or our play call sheet like this. So just having an area that highlights the kids that you need to be getting the ball to.
Yeah.
In those weird situations, I think those are okay to have on your play call sheet. It doesn't have to add
that's the
3
system,
pages.
that you start to build out that system. I don't think anybody's going to have all of that like day one, but
No.
I think a lot of times you have to have that mistake happen, and then you go, okay, let's add a little,
For sure.
tick marks of who's gotten the ball, who do we need to get the ball to, that kind of stuff.
Yep, and that's so like I've created 1,000 blank templates for this to get ready for each season. Sometimes those are just blank areas for the first few games, and then you realize, hey, we do need to be getting the ball to Billy Bob, so his name has to go in one of those blank slots. So you start thinking about that. Anyways, I think yes, offensive play call sheet can get you out of a high pressure situation if you can just tell yourself to go back to it. Because like you said, Joe, we usually get through our script, if that's 3 plays or 10 or however you're doing it in your world, and then that thing kind of just sits on the desk as we call by the off the cuff. So just remind yourself you have that aid, you built it for this situation. Go use it. Let's jump in the second part here. Prepare your play calls to play the game before the game.
Yep. And I think real quick, backing up 1 second, because you mentioned it.
Of course.
One of the biggest mistakes that you can make, we break play calling down into 3 categories. Predictive, which is based on what I've seen before. This is what I expect to see now. So this is what they've run every single, sometimes it is situational based on, down, but it's usually down, but it's like, hey, every first down in this game, they blitzed heavy or something like that. Like it's probably not from on film, but predictive, which is what they've been giving me, what I expect to see, what I saw the last time we ran this formation, what I saw last time we ran this motion. They slid with the motion. They, check to this. They, we ran an unbalanced formation. They did. How did they align with this formation before? That's what I predict I'm going to see. Usually it's formationally, but it can also be situational sometimes. Number 2 is pre-snap, which is check with me, out audibles. And then post-snap is anything that has options post-snap. So it can be triple option. It's almost any passing concept, right? Because based on, where this guy goes and where this guy goes, we have a read progression. It's not just option game. It's not just passing game. It's also things like inside zone. Inside zone has a post-snap. Just as an example, inside zone has a post-snap, the cutback. If they overplay the inside zone, the cutback opens up. So there's also post-snap built in, which is post-snap adjustments. So those 3 levels of play calling we have available to us. I think the biggest mistake is one thing that is not in there is what a lot of coaches do, and I've done the worst play call I ever made. And I will never forget it. I will never move on from it. I will never forgive myself. I made so many mistakes in this game because I got nervous. We played Goochland week 10. We were both 9-0. They were 8-1, and we were 9-0. But we were both undefeated in the district. They had not lost a district game in 10 years. We were onside every time. I did not onside kick against them because I thought they'd be ready for it. They were. I'm sure they were. They never, but because he asked me, he's like, we spent 20 minutes every day getting ready for onside kick. How come you didn't onside kick? And I outthought myself.
Right.
And the other one that I won't forget is we had a crucial third. I think it was third or fourth now. I think it was third and short. I think we punted for some reason. And I also didn't ever punt like I would, but I punted a lot and actually cost us. But we did punt. We punted in a situation I would normally punt, which was from our end zone, and our punter dropped the ball in the end zone on the one, which was that was the that was the real killer, but there's so many other things, like, I can't put it all on that kid.
Right.
Um, it would be easy to do because the long snapper went to Virginia Tech for 4 years. It wasn't him, but, and he didn't get to punt next week. But, he was our right tackle. You know, if you're right tackle punting, you know, what are you gonna get?
There's a lot of
Uh,
man back there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but and this had never happened. I think it probably came from me. Like, it probably came from all the mistakes that I made, probably trickled down to our players making these mistakes. But this is the one where I think coaches do it all the time. Um, we had called power. Now, I did not like power against their front. We couldn't run power, and we probably averaged maybe less than 2 yards a carry on power that game. We were getting a little bit on inside zone, a little bit outside zone. We threw for 300 yards. I mean, they were stout. D1 player, you know, district player of the year is, you know, is it linebacker, D1 kids, and you know, they went to the state champ. I think they lost state championship that year. We ran power, and in my head, I was running power to set up the counter for when I needed it, and I was just calling power every once in a while to set it up. Well, they're stout inside, so they were stuffing power, and I'm like, here we go. We got this 3rd and short. I'm going to call the counter right now. They're not going to be ready for it. Well, the problem is I was not basing that on what I had seen them do. I was basing it on what I thought should happen. They'll see the motion of the H-back and they'll be thinking power. That's not what they were doing. They were ignoring the H-back motion. They never slid with the motion. They never blitzed to the motion. They attacked the guard pull. They filled that. They played with great reads, keys, everything. What would have been the right thing to do would have been to call a counter pass and tell my quarterback to come out of there and just take off because he hadn't run all season, right? Just, if you see it, just get down. Don't get hit because I can't lose you. Like he never ran other than quarterback sneak. He could run, but I was like, don't run, just, or have a leak out of the backfield or something, call it a naked pass or something, probably because passing game was working and nothing else was. I called it based on, I've got this set up now. I see coaches, and I've worked with coaches, and I've probably done it, who will go up and down the field between the 20s, running the ball. Like you said, the one that's working, they're handing it off to the bell cow. 8 yards, 10 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 10 yards. They get to the 15. I got them now. Play action pass. And they're like, I got them set up. It's like, you do. They can't stop you running the ball. They're set up. And we outthink ourselves. And we just, we do it every single time. And
Probably some podcast that told them that when you get to the red zone, you're supposed to use your play action. You know what I mean?
Change everything now, yeah.
Change everything.
Well, and by the way, passing game changes in the red zone. Run game really doesn't. Run game changes a little bit on the goal line because it's harder to run some things, but passing game doesn't really change. Passing game changes. Run game doesn't really change down there, until the goal line when their front changes, and that's what changes for you. Goal line's a situation that changes run game. Usually, the front doesn't change significantly in red zone. The coverage does, and the expansion of the zones. The zones tighten down. So the big one is you go off of what you see. So on all three of those, the play calls are based off of what you've seen happen so far, what you see when you line up and you check with me, you audible, whatever, or what your players see when the play starts, which is the option reads, the passing reads, the cutback read, right? Those things post-snap. So predictive, what have I already seen? Pre-snap, what do I see right now? Post-snap, what are we seeing during the play? Okay. So I guess you could say it's what we've seen, what we see, or what we're seeing. That's your play calling mentality. And with the biggest mistake we make is attacking something we haven't seen, but we wish we had. Right. So that doesn't work.
Yeah. No, you can't chalkboard the football game in the middle of a game, right? It just doesn't work that way.
So what happened, and what you're thinking is, I read that this was the way that it's supposed to happen, and then or I heard this was the way it's supposed to happen, but it's not what's happening. So what you can do to prepare for all of this, I think this is where the call sheet breaks down. You need to prepare your call sheet on Sunday, not on Thursday night. So what happens is the first time that you've really used that call sheet is Friday at the game. And you're not familiar with where everything is. You haven't been using it all week. You haven't been thinking about it. You put the call sheet together based on what you saw in practice, based on this, based on that. You can make updates to the call sheet. You certainly should. But what you can do instead is practice this. You can practice it all off season. You can practice it as much as possible. Collect scout films and collect anything that you can. It's easiest to collect your level, but I mean, you could go on NFL Game Rewind and pull up defenses, and you can find weaknesses in their defense. Now, their weaknesses close a lot faster, but you're just working that muscle of, you're working that muscle of this is what I see pre-snap, or this is what I saw before, and this is what I want to call. And you start to look at, you don't have to sit there and score it, but like, am I right most of the time? Am I 60, 70% of the time right? Or is every time I think I'm going to do something, it's wrong? Then you're thinking, I get out there and, get to the next play. So using predictive and using pre-snap, you're not so much post-snap, but there's post-snap elements. That's what most of our like coverage beaters have post-snap elements to them. But there's a predictive and a post-snap to, like, if you call curl flat, it's like the predictive is I expect to see cover 3. The post-snap is we got cover 3, but the safety, instead of going to the top of the numbers, jump the flat route and the curl was open, that kind of thing. So the way that you can do this and prepare yourself, and you should do it, is to get film, pull up old film, obviously use the film, exchange film for that week so you can see the actual defense you're going to go against. But in the offseason, just start doing it, because again, the film you have from this week, they might come out in a different front. They might come out, you just don't know. And I mean, sometimes you've got a pretty good idea, but it's not uncommon at all for us to see a front we didn't expect, or, a lot of times we get exactly what we thought we were going to get, but the better you are, the more likely you are to see something you didn't expect, like truly.
Right.
So as you improve, as your team improves, as your offense improves, you're more likely for people to be like, we can't stop them with if they're up in their ears back 4-4, cover 0, whatever, and you're not very good, guess what they're going to do? They're just going to try to wreck you with that. But if you're really good, there's a good chance they're going to second guess themselves and come out in like a 3-3 cover 3 soft, like bend but don't break or something. That just whatever, their mentality will flip because they won't believe in themselves. Get the film, and then get as many get just as many films as you can get. Have your call sheet there. By the way, this call sheet changes as you're with your installs, but I would say, like, if I have, let's say, 6 formations on there, and the play calls are the play calls, a couple of them change, but for the most part, the call sheet is, a lot of it doesn't change. The situational stuff rarely changes because I like to work those situations. But so you make that call sheet and you sit there and you watch games and you go, okay, here's we've got the ball. You be the offense, whatever you've got, and you look at the defense and okay, I got to, this front, I like this call, and you do it predictive or do it pre-snap look and make your calls and figure out what you like. I think it's easiest to go through and do it pre-snap each time at first, and start to figure out what you like pre-snap, and then you'll start to get a feel for, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I expect to see. You start to be able to, Rick Stewart has a great predictive system. Rick's predictive system is he has people, he memorizes every, and Rick talked about this on a podcast, the JDFP, at one point. Rick memorizes the defense
jersey numbers.
He knows who's the will linebacker, who's the Mike linebacker, who's the strong end, who's the weak end, who's this, who's that. He knows their positions across the board. He memorizes them. I will give somebody a chart of that and say, hey, or if depending on who I have, if somebody's up in the box, and I'll say, like, if there's somebody I'm not sure about, I'll say, is that guy still there or whatever? Is that where he's still at? And go, okay. And then Rick has somebody whose only job is to tell him who made the tackle. And based on who makes the tackle, with his wing T system, based on who makes the tackle, he's got his predictive play call. If the corner makes the tackle, he's calling play action. If the backside linebacker makes the tackle, he's calling counter. Right? If the forced defender makes the tackle, he's calling toss or something. Whatever, rocket, something like whatever the wing T guys call. They're calling whatever. So he's using that predictive. So he's and then based on that, he's saying, okay, that guy was over aggressive, and it might just be one time, it might be 2 or 3 times, and he goes, okay, that guy's over aggressive. A lot of times we do this, and I know Kenny does something similar. It's like, don't call it and then go, okay, the backside linebacker made the tackle, so I call power, and the backside linebacker makes the tackle, and I immediately call counter. Like, no, run power again and confirm that this is the deal, and then
Yeah.
Especially if you've, I think what the other thing we make the mistake of is we run, again, I'll just say power. You run power and you get 6 yards. You run power and you get 8 yards. You run power and you get 1 yard. And guys go, oh, they figured power out. It's like, or
Your guy tripped.
You're like, somebody missed a block. You didn't communicate up front, but a lot of times, the one thing is, if you don't talk to your offensive lineman, you won't know this. The number of times where the offensive lineman have called a play and it just blew up. And so I didn't call it again. And I get one of the sidelines and go, what happened on that? And they go, oh, he saw something else. We got it fixed. So I could have just called it again.
For sure.
And they would have been fine. Because they always, if you've been teaching your offensive line, doing a really good job, and they're bought in and all that sort of stuff, they're out there solving problems all night. Like, they don't need you. You can help, but they don't have to have, you don't have to hold their hand through the whole thing.
Yeah. Before we move on, and I know we've been stuck on offensive play call sheet for a minute, but you said something a minute ago that talked about you need to build this on Sunday, not on Thursday, right? Because you should be practicing using this all week long. We do that in the fact, like, we build out our play call sheet and we build our practice scripts out of our play call sheet.
Yes.
Our if you want, do indie time or group time or team time, whatever it is you're doing, all of that is built off of the plays we're going to run this week. So that's very, very critical. If you're sitting down on Thursday and adding to or building out a call sheet, you've already you've screwed up, right? At most Thursday, you're scratching things off that the quarterback doesn't like, the offensive line doesn't like, the running back.
That's Wednesday night. Yeah, that's Wednesday night. That's if it doesn't work Wednesday night, don't fix it on Thursday. Move on.
So you've got to have that thing built early enough in the week that Monday is game planned based off of that play call sheet. You can't go into practice and just think we're going to go do indie and then run our 5 base plays the same way we've always ran them at practice. You just can't do that. You have to use exactly, if it's shifts and motions, if it's formations, whatever, you've got to be practicing them in the same way you're going to call them on game night. Your kid should have already seen everything you call at least 5 times in practice that week. It can be throughout their 7-on-7, their team, a couple different days, but you have got to build that thing early in the weekend and then practice off of the call sheet all week. Yeah, let's jump into the game before the game, Joe. I know
I kind of touched on that. I think that
okay,
that's you've got to play this game ahead of time. So I'll just add one more thing. Make your calls off the film. That's number one. You should be using this call sheet. You can do it all off season. Like, just it's not even about the exact formations and the exact plays. It's about recognizing the weaknesses and knowing what you have to attack those weaknesses. And it won't always work. Like, guys, when you're 0-10 and you're playing the state champs, you're not strong enough to attack their weaknesses, right? Their weaknesses close before you can get to them a lot of the times. So you can make smart play calls when you're just completely outgunned, like really legit outgunned. You can make great play calls. When you're FCS and they're, you're the team that they paid to come in and take the beating, right? You can make great play calls, and it's still. And by the way, that's a more even matchup than a lot of high school games are.
Right.
So don't. There's an important thing to realizing the situation, and like, we're not ready. Sometimes you can look at it. You've got to be able to look at great play calls and go, that was a great play call.
Right.
We just weren't ready for it. And when you review your film, when you do your first watch of your film, your self scouting, I think it's really important to not just look at it and go, that play didn't work, or that play didn't work clearly, but why didn't it work? What was it that didn't work? We're not good enough. Maybe we don't have the right players in the right places, but maybe we're just completely outmatched, or maybe it was a bad play call. It's like, what, where do we figure this out? But the other thing that I'll add is I script everything. I want to script the offense and I want to script the defense. And so most of the week, and I script them in blocks of 7. 7 just really works out for timing purposes for me. In that those blocks of 7 are going to come out to a 4-minute period. So I like 4-minute periods. So I script a block of 7 and get through 7 of them in a period. So if I script 4, if I have a practice plan with 4 periods, I can get through 28. I can get through 4 blocks. And we'll group those. So like there might be a heavy inside run, and however you want to go, inside run and play actions is going to be a focus one day. Outside runs and drop back passing is a heavy focus. I tend not to focus real heavy on drop back passing. And you focus on it more in 7-on-7, but you split that up however you need it to. But I think it is good to schedule some good on good time. However, if your team can handle good on good, if you have the numbers for it, let your defensive scout team guy just call some stuff that he thinks is good. Try to call some pre-snap or try to do some things. Go through a 10-play series of just, you don't spend a ton of time on it, but do some good on good where you're calling, actual right there based off of what you see and not just scripting everything. Because that gets you a little bit more. My head coach was good about putting pressure on me in situations where, be, 2-minute drill, or, this is the situation. You got to make these play calls in this situation. But sometimes you just need to go out there and say it's 1st and 10. Beginning of the game. Like if you have trouble, like this is a really good thing to think about, like, because a lot of us have trouble starting fast in the game. Okay, come out, kick the ball off. Offense is on the field. The game is starting right now. Okay, we have trouble coming out second half. Midway through practice, go to water. So we're coming out at halftime. Give them some orange slices and Capri Suns, and then get them back out there and line up and play. This is the start of the second half. We were receiving the ball. We deferred. We're receiving the ball, and go and run it then. And if it fails, make sure you do it again. Don't just walk away. Do it again tomorrow, or do it again at the end of practice or something, but don't just don't go, well, we sucked. It's over. Because then you're going to suck the game. But you do need to call this play. So yeah.
Last part here, talk about calling plays. Excuse me. Calling plays to attack the weaknesses. And I know we touched on this a little bit earlier. We're talking numbers and space and all that. But I feel like it's something you could never over preach, because that should legitimately be your game plan, right? I mean, if you're going where the defense isn't, you're going to be successful.
The offensive play caller system, which is probably open for enrollment when this comes out, or will be shortly after. I don't know the exact dates. In the offensive play caller system, when we open, well, it's available at the store, JDFB store, at JodyandFootball.com, but I know we'll be having an enrollment special here at the end of July, or middle of July, or sometime in July. One of the questions I always get asked is, does this work for youth, or does this work for middle school, or does this work for JV? We don't get film, so I can't game plan that way. And I always stress, you have to have this if that's the situation, because you have to have a system where you don't know. Yeah. You see, all these other ways of game planning that you hear about, all these other ways require scouting. And scouting's great to have, but in the absence of scouting, you have to have a way to do this. Not only that, if you are a coach, or if you are a coach, period, end sentence. If you are a coach, comma, maybe, you don't know that they're going to come out and do what you saw on film either. And so you have to have a system a play calling system that allows you to adapt. And so that is where weaknesses come in. And so that is where the script, using the script, and really you're scripting formations with plays that you think will be good. But what you're really looking for is when I line up in that formation with the call that I think will be good, or if you want to line up in that formation and then call it from the sidelines, when I line up in this call that I think will be good, what do they give me? And if you're going to use predictive play calling, then you see what they give you with that formation and you run the play. And if the play works, I know Kenny and I had this conversation. I might get past the second call in the script, because if the first formation, the play works. So I got a formation and I got a play on my script. Play call number one. You don't have to go straight down the script either. So I got play call number one there, and I line up and I run it, and it works. Well, presumably, even whether I saw it pre-snap or not, I have identified a weakness, because that play in that formation just got 8 yards. So what do? Well, most coaches call the next thing, because Bill Walsh said to do that. Script your first 20 plays. That's for most of us, that's a third of the game.
Right.
So you're mid-second quarter and you haven't made a single decision all day. So I don't recommend that. I know Bill Walsh is Bill Walsh, but I don't recommend that. So we call the first formation play call, and it works and it gets 8 yards. That's a weakness, right? So call it again and it works. I'm going to keep calling it till you stop it. Almost all of you, truth be told, will call something else before they stop it. If it goes long enough, right? If you run it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times and it's still working, almost all of us will be like, call something else. We'll be like, oh, well, our running back's tired now. Let's put in the other guy, and he's a toss guy. So we got the other guy in. He's more of an outside. This isn't his play. It's like, well, it is if they suck at defending it.
All right.
They're
It's
all good.
everybody's
Like,
play.
I can go out there and run it 1 time, because they're terrible at defending this thing. Don't go running to the stuff that they're. So I call it from formation until they stop it. Let's say we run it 3 times and they finally stop it. I probably run it one more time just to see if it was a fluke. And then I'm watching the whole time pre-snap, and I'm watching who made the tackle, or what. I'm watching what alignment I see pre-snap, how they're adjusting. Okay, the linebackers slid, or they tightened this guy down. So I'm looking at now, where is there a new numbers advantage because they're trying to stop this. So if I'm running power, and I'm motioning my H-back across in our pistol power offense system, and the H-back's motioning across. And now when I motion the H-back across and I see linebackers sliding, I see guys tightening down, I see everybody starting to condense around the C-gap tight end area, right? Because we just put more people there. Okay, who's coming in there? Is it the corner? Is it the outside linebacker? Is it what's opening up? Who's making the tackle? And so from that information, now I don't change the formation. I don't change the play call. I don't change the formation. I keep the same motion, whatever I have. Motion is part of formations, by the way. You don't just tag motions on formations. You do, but you group those in your call sheet. You group that's a family. It's not, let me just tag motions randomly onto stuff, because you're not learning anything from that. You do that in your game plan. If you don't have film, you just put that into your, this is what we do. So now I gather information as that play is working, and I'm seeing you adjust and adjust and adjust and adjust. Kids are adjusting. Kids are always adjusting out there, right? They're always trying to solve the problem. The outside linebacker, the force player, is like, I got to get there and help, because Tommy sucks at middle linebacker, and so I'm going to get in there and help. So now what's he done? He's not doing his job anymore. That's what I've got to identify with my next play call. And so I don't need film to do this. None of that required film, right? None of that required film. I ran that play. Let's say the play call didn't work. Then I could just keep that formation. When I lined up in that formation, I looked at it and I saw where I saw a weakness to that formation. I went ahead and ran the play call because I thought that would work. But when I looked at the formation, I said, oh, they aligned a way I didn't expect them to, but now I see a numbers advantage over here. Or now I see a space advantage over here. Or now I see a leverage advantage over here. And so I'm going to call the next play in that series, or the next, the call that attacks that weakness. Okay. And from the same formation, because that way I'll get that same alignment. If I change the formation, I'll probably get a different alignment. And so I don't now I'm guessing again. So now I'm just hoping. So that's the use of the script, and the system is the script. And if again, going back to if I want to stay on that same formation and I've got a relatively equal thing, okay, I run the play, I run the play, I run the play, I run the play. You adjust to it. You opened up with something else. I run the counter, I run the counter, I run the counter, I run the counter. You adjusted, and now somebody else came in. I run the play action. I run the play action. Most of us won't run the play action very many times. I run the play action, and then now, what do I get now? They're like, crap. We couldn't stop. We adjusted to stop the power. They beat us with the counter, so we adjusted to stop the counter by bringing more guys in. We couldn't stop that. Now we get the power pass. So now what do I get? I get back to where we started, and I go back, and I can stay on. I have not gone to the second play call in the script, but we are up 7-0. We've got the ball. We're driving again. Right? I want to make you solve that situation. I want to make you solve that problem. Does it always work like that? No. But that's the thought process that you want to have going into it. Now, there are times when nothing works and you get frustrated and it's just like you're just hunting for something.
Yeah, I think where people probably struggle the most in this is understanding how to find those weaknesses, because you do come out and you said a lot of us don't start quick. We're kind of slow starters because we're stuck to this script we wrote on Wednesday night or maybe on Tuesday or something along the way when we decided what our opening script was going to be, right? And so you're not going out and seeing what they're giving you and then making the best out of it. You're just calling the thing that you said you were going to call because you love it or whatever. So being able to identify those, it starts with having, I think, someone good in the box to spot it for you. If you're a youth guy and it's just you and another dad, don't put him in the box. Let him be down there, help you organize. But you've got to have eyes on that somehow to kind of figure out what you're getting. You got to be able to start using your players too, right? You can be coaching up your O-line. You said it earlier, Joe. If you have a very well coached O-line, you're almost useless on game night. They're problem solving for you. They should be able to come out and be able to communicate with you what they're getting. Why? Look, we like to run, a lot of gap scheme stuff, and people in this part of the world right now love 4 eyes. Everybody wants to run mint or tight or whatever front you want to call that, and it throws off your gap scheme a little bit, and the O-line will come out and let us know, like, look, I'm struggling to get that 4-eye down blocked. We've got to run something to get him off his game or to move that kid. So we go to a duo or we go to an outside zone or whatever you need to go to. You got to be able to find those weaknesses in any way possible. The film's going to tell you a little bit. If you can record during the game and you've got a coach that can be backtracking, throughout the game. A lot of us have sideline replay now and stuff like that,
which is helpful. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, 100%.
That's
If you're,
my assumption is if you don't have film, you don't have sideline film. But yeah.
Well, however your method is to find these weaknesses, that's something you need to be practicing as well. Get that stuff out and use it when the pressure's not on. We talked earlier about sucking, doing this under pressure. Well,
that stuff up during your JV games. I mean, it really is like, number one, we've had so many problems with them that like it needs to get out and get tested during a JV game too. But also that can give you a chance if let's say you're the varsity coordinator, either sit up in the box or get that stuff out and use it during the JV scrimmage, and maybe you can help your JV coordinator, but you can start to look at that. That's another chance to use the calling.
Yeah. If your kids can't count and you don't have anybody in the box, then you better be able to get the ball close to your sideline so you can see really well. And that's outside of that, man, you're going to struggle unless you just have the dudes. But you got to be able to find a way to be able to spot those weaknesses to get to them. A lot of the times it's just going to be matchups, I feel like, in high school ball. And for some reason in my career, I feel like we've always been either way better than the other team or way worse than the other team. I've very few times I felt like we went out and just played equal game. Maybe at Owasso, where everyone was pretty much maxed out on talent. It's a bunch of just juggernauts going at it. But everywhere else we've been, it's been like one of you has got the talent advantage and the other one doesn't. Unfortunately, it's every week, which means you need to get even better at spotting space, numbers, angles, right? Where you have the advantage and what's your disadvantage. It goes back to what we've talked about years ago on the podcast and knowing your system. You need to know in the back of your mind. Yes, we talked about having a play call sheet. You have this plan to go out in the game. But if it comes out to something you can't run it, you better know your system, because you may have to just pull them across and be like, hey, this is the play we're going to run right now. This is how you do it. Whatever it is, talk them up. I realize that goes against everything I just said a minute ago about build out your play call sheet on Sunday so you can practice it all week. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, though.
Sure. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I think, Joe, that we have checked all the boxes. We've done a pretty good job. We talked about offensive play call sheet. We talked about preparing your play calls, play the game before the game, going through that film, kind of doing, testing yourself, quizzing yourself. Use play calls to attack weaknesses, numbers, space, leverage. Who's doing too much? That's something we didn't really talk about. One of my good buddies now is an offensive coordinator that beat me every time he played us because he just found the kid who I had doing too much because it was my really good kid, and he was like, I just made him wrong all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out how to make people wrong, read people, etc. Yeah. So those are what we talked about tonight. Really, just trying to help you alleviate that pressure that's causing you to make bad play calls or whatever it is. Lots of good references there, and I'm sure that there's more ideas. There's way more ways to do that. Just kind of covering the bases here tonight. So shoot out this episode if you have struggled with that or know someone who struggles with that. It's a great time to shoot this episode out. Also, like we said earlier, we've got plenty of other ones. Last week we talked about our players being out of shape by the fourth quarter. That's one that I think everyone needs to listen to because we're all doing conditioning different. But I feel like there is a progression here and things are moving a certain way. Don't forget, next week we're going to be talking about getting the most out of your talent. So being very efficient with the guys you got, kind of tapping all that potential out of them. I think it's going to be another really good episode. Let's pay the bills one more time and get out of here, Joe.
Yeah. With, talking about defensive systems now, moving to the other side of the ball, we talk about the difference between championship defense. And I mentioned before that it's not talent, it's not luck. A large part is the system, and that's how you maximize your talent and maximize your luck, really. And the thousands of coaches, to over 10,000 coaches that I work with, many of them overcomplicating football, running a stack of plays, no real system, no real reason behind it. They don't know what each play call is for. When we get those coaches putting together a real defensive system, everything changes. Your players start to play faster. The coaches have more confidence, and you start winning more football games. And so I put together a guide to show you how to do that. It's called What You Need to Know to Build the Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. It's going to be the blueprint for building a defensive system that works so that you can simplify your playbook and get your players to buy in and take control of the game. You can download a free copy of that right now at joedanielfootball.com/system. It's going to take the guesswork out of coaching, build your ultimate defensive system, and turn your football program around this season.
Awesome. One more time, I'm going to mention athleticspeedmovement.com. By this point, man, you're getting to, it's almost season time, right? We're probably about a month out. Is that where we're at, Joe? 4 to 6 weeks from the first game?
Yeah, 6. Well, from the first game,
I guess we still got a little bit from the
a
time
couple months
ball
from the first
starts.
game. Yeah.
That's still plenty of time to get in some of the athletic speed
I'd say
movement
that
system.
a month from the first game. Yeah.
There you go. Before you move into the in-season portion of that. So you do get both when you buy in, athleticspeedmovement.com. Go over there and make your kids faster today. I know we talked earlier, cells that are opening, and you said that it was just about time for the offensive play caller system. Is that correct?
Yep. That'll be here. Either it's already open and you've been getting emails about it and you need to go read them, or it's about to open.
Awesome. And then let's do social media here. So I'm at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter /X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. I do have a website. I need to go do something with that. It's just sitting there with cobwebs on it.
Yep.
Just not as good at it as you are, Joe. Yours is awesome. Go check out his website, joedanielfootball.com. I also have a Patreon where I can help you do all the fun stuff, building graphics, celebrating your kids, helping build program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Find a tier that's good for you. If there's not one that you like, hit me up by email and we'll build one out for you. Joe, where are you at, sir?
You can find me on Instagram at footballinfo. Instagram is at joedanielfootball. Facebook is facebook.com/joedanielfootball. If you want to watch the podcast, TikTok is at joedanielfootball as well. If you want to watch the podcast, you can go to joedanielfootball.com/YouTube. I have a weird YouTube address, so joedanielfootball.com/YouTube. We'll get you there, or you can just search for Joe Daniel Football there. And on Twitter at Football Info. Those are all going to follow the podcast. I'm not a social mediaite. And the website and the goings on there. You can contact JDFB by emailing joe@joedanielfootball.com. But the main place to go is joedanielfootball.com, the website.
It's a good one. Way better than mine. Podcast is at the FBCP on Twitter/X. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher. Spotify and Apple Podcasts can be the biggest two. Been listening for a while. Please leave a review, especially on Apple. That's the one that really seems to spread the word. 5 stars would be great. If it's less than that, holler at us. Let us know why. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's something we can solve. Maybe it doesn't. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, win. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.